What's the ruler? We are gamers, ignorant gamers, all that. So, there's been a whole lot of talk about next gen, especially the poor Microsoft. They just been getting bashed on by, mainly gamers and gaming outlets going in on them. People just don't like always on DRM and Connect, and I generally shy away from this stuff. I'm not a fanboy. I don't really get like console wars died for me when Nintendo and Sega stopped. Like those were the only legitimate console war days that I'll validate. Like Sonic versus Mario was a legitimate console war. Nothing else matters anymore. But there, I've been talking to Uncle RZA. I talked to him for a little bit. Snow. I talked to DC a little while back. I'm getting an Xbox One because I just believe in getting what you feel is best for you in your situation, and nothing that they've come up with really limits what I do now. But there are some rules and things that have come to light starting today that I felt just as gamers I should be able to sit down with the homies and just talk about it. Unfortunately, all of us just can't sit down together, so I have to make a YouTube video to talk about it with y'all. So my talk is not about the Xbox One only, it's about next gen and changes just in the industry, because people complaining about DRM mainly. I think they need to understand that this is something that's not only coming to Xbox One, it's just that Xbox and Microsoft have already come out and talked about it. Don't think for 1 second it's a slim chance that PlayStation won't be implementing its own DRM rules. I feel very confident that something's coming that gamers are not gonna like, because if they were 100% not changing anything when all this news hit with Xbox One and all their rules, they would have just came out and said something, because they're rivals. They would have said something to say, hey, you ain't got to worry about none of that here, we're not doing it. But as you can see, they're taking a very quiet approach, not explaining anything, almost like a wait and watch, like let's see what they're doing. And like no matter the backlash, it's not, unless Xbox changes too, that whatever plans they have for DRM is not changing. DRM is just the next move for consoles. It's already on PC, and it's the next move for consoles. It's been a big move in entertainment in general. I mean, like RZA pointed out when we were going back and forth on Facebook, people use Spotify, millions of people use it. You can't, there's DRM on that. Xbox Music, there's DRM on that. iTunes, there's a form of DRM. It's kind of a struggle between, at least this is all just my opinion. I'm no expert. I'm just a normal dude that plays games. It's kind of a like the fight between, you pay full price for an item whether you have it physically in your hand or just have access to it. You own it, like you own that, but but then they own it too, if you get what I'm saying. So it's kind of like you own the right to use it, but then you don't own it either. You own the right to use it, but then they tell you how to use it. It's kind of, it's just a, DRM is just such a iffy area. It's one of the biggest reasons why I backed away from PC gaming. The whole idea of DRM back in the day when it really started to hit, which was what it all bears down to, it was a fight against piracy. It was a noble fight. People were stealing games and other things, Napster and all that. People were stealing, and they were like, "Hey, we made this. We wanted to make money off of it. That's what it's part of the reason why we made it. We made it. It's fair that everyone buys it." So they made the DRM and all these rules, and it makes sense, but it's just so complicated that I just didn't even want to deal with it. Like wasn't saying it was a bad idea or it wasn't fair. I just didn't want to deal with it. As a consumer, I feel like and this is kind of like, like kind of selfless or selfish actually. I felt like as the consumer, I'm paying you. You're supposed to make this process as simple as possible for me. And to an extent, that's right. And to an extent, that's kind of like asshole like. You know, so in my mind, adding an extra step to me having to figure out what I can and cannot do with things I own. I just didn't want to deal with it, so I jumped back on console. I mean, I flip flopped a lot. My dad owned an Atari, which was my first system. Then we got a Sega Genesis. Then I got a Super Nintendo. Then actually got a Sega Dreamcast first. We went a long drought. I got a 32X on my Sega Genesis, and that's what my parents made me roll with until I was able to get a Sega Dreamcast. Then after Sega Dreamcast died, I actually went back and bought a PlayStation 1, played a lot of classic games on that, then got a PlayStation 2, then got an Xbox, the Xbox 360. Here we are today. And with all those systems, I didn't have to worry about DRM. I didn't have to worry about the rules. I knew that I could play a game how I wanted to play it. I could play it where I wanted to play it. I could play it how many times I wanted to play it. You know, my brother could play it on his console. My friend could play his game. Like, he could let me borrow his game, and I let him borrow mine, and we could both beat him at the same time. And there were no limits on that, and then we just get it back. And I think that's actually fair. It's legitimate. Unfortunately, that's not how the rest of the world is working. There's bad ways of doing that too, and you have to excuse my sniping. I didn't even realize I had a sniper rifle when I first picked this thing up, and I haven't played in a while, so I'm rusty. Anyway, it's just a huge change of mindset now, because the article came out from Major Nelson. They outlined some of the rules of how their online services are going to work, and some of the stuff was cool. I like the 10 people share gaming thing. I don't really understand how it completely works, but they haven't explained it all, I'm assuming. Like, for instance, if my brother has an Xbox and he's playing a game that I want to play, if I hop, and I'm the one who bought it, if I hop on, will I be able to still play it while he's playing? Will it kick him off and automatically, or will it not let me play it? If I can't connect online, they can't check to see if the game's legitimate. Will they kick him off and not him? There's a lot of questions that I don't really get. So there was something, but I thought the idea itself was cool. The checking on you every 24 hours to make sure your game's legit. The what people call always online, even though it's really not, but it kind of is. That doesn't affect me because I'm always on the internet. Every game I play is multiplayer anyway, so it doesn't really. I guess it's a kind of annoying. I can understand how it's annoying. It's an extra step, and by the off chance your internet's out for a long time, or I don't know, say a storm hits you and then you move somewhere, and your family's trying to get stuff back together, and y'all seen all the weather lately. I mean, not trying to just pick something corny, but things do happen where people go without simple things as internet for a long time. What do you do then? You can't play it. All you can do is watch TV. So I can understand how that could be an annoyance, but I think on average that won't affect a lot of people. It will affect a minority though, and I recognize that. It doesn't affect me though, but like I said, I can understand it. There was some of the rules I thought were kind of cheesy though. Really thought was cheesy. The fact that you can only loan a game out once. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'd be able to handle that a little better if they didn't also put this limitation of you have to be registered as an Xbox Live friend for 30 days before you can play it on the other console anyway. The 30-day thing was pushing it a little too far. I think that's a little corny. I mean, 9 times out of 10, a person's not going to loan their game to a stranger anyway. Usually if you want your game back, you're only going to loan it to a friend, and probably only for a little bit anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I loan someone Battlefield, I want it back probably like in 5 hours. Like, I'm loaning it to them while I'm at work. That's pushing it a little too far. Having both of those rules is kind of cheesy. Yeah, but I don't loan a lot of my games out. Generally don't loan much of them, but I understand, especially with younger people, loaning is a big deal. When I was a kid, I loaned my games out a lot. That's how I played a lot of games, because when you're dependent on someone else to buy your stuff, you know what I'm saying, you got a loan. You're playing out with your friends. Like, I would have never beat Pokemon Red and Blue if I couldn't loan. You know what I'm saying? So I understand. Some of the frustration with that, but once again, it's something that doesn't affect me, so I won't necessarily complain about it. But I get you. The what was the other thing? There was something else that I didn't like. Oh, there was something this is one thing I really didn't like, is that a lot of the things, according to Major Nelson's blog post, which I'll post in the description, a lot of the things, like, they put a lot of the rules they made, they stated that the Xbox was capable of doing these things and that Microsoft Studios would let you do these things, but publishers get to decide what can and cannot be done. And I think for the consumers, just to show, I don't know, some type of love, they should have at least made a standard. Like, I don't think it's I don't really think it's fair that they just left it up to publishers, because I'm hoping and praying that publishers kind of just stick to the same guidelines. But I just, when you leave something up to publishers like that, what you get is like 5 or 6 different rules sometimes. So now a consumer not only has to worry about just the normal rules, but now they have to go out of their way to find out, okay, so what can I do with EA? What can I do with Activision? What can I do with this guy? What can I do with that guy? Like, they have to look into these things now. It's just, that's complicated. I think they should have just all sat down at the table and just said, look, this is how it should be done. Let's recognize maybe 1 or 2 processes and leave it at that. I really feel like that's what should have been done. Maybe it'll be done in the future, because this is just the start of a generation. But making it a standard, just for the sake of, because I mean, it's, especially since I know it's not going to be advertised. They're not going to advertise this stuff. So for the average casual person who's just coming in to get maybe a game or two, they're not really knowing what they're getting themselves into. And I can see how that can be confusing to people, and I wish they would have just picked one set of rules for that. But with this video coming to an end soon, I just want to say that I'm not taking a side on this. Get the console or PC, get what you think is best for you in your situation. Don't let all the hype and the people going back for it decide where you're going. You get what works for you, what's comfortable for you, and you run with that, because in the end it's about just having fun and playing games. I'm getting an Xbox One because that's all my friends are going to probably have Xbox. I have a lot of people already registered on Live. I'm in the ecosystem. It just makes sense. It's what I'm getting. And don't think that DRM and all these rules coming from Xbox is just an Xbox thing, because it's just an industry thing. All mediums of entertainment, it seems to be going in this direction. I mean, even Adobe is pushing their products in a streaming manner. Like, you don't actually, I think, like, this might be the last year you actually go out and buy the license. You get a subscription with them, and you get to use, like, everything seems to be switching, especially software and digital items. They seem to be switching to this. You kind of don't own it. And I don't know, it's hard to explain. I don't want to act like I'm a pro on it, but just don't think it's just an Xbox thing. Like, if you hate it, just say you hate DRM. Don't say you hate Xbox One, because it's not an Xbox One thing. I promise you, Sony's doing something too. Sony definitely knows DRM, probably better than Microsoft does. Well, nah, they're probably same old, but they definitely know DRM. So don't think, they haven't come out and said anything, so they don't think they're not doing something too. This is an industry move. So in the end, it's kind of just you either gonna run with it or you're not. Because even PC on Steam, they have DRM regulations, but you know, Steam's still very, very popular. It's kind of like the go-to way to play games. So everything's going there. So it's just gonna happen. But trust when I say, as an old school gamer, I understand your frustrations. Just let me know what y'all think. This is something I really would love to know other people's opinions on. Try to leave the fanboy thing to the side and just honestly say what you think if you can. If you can't, be a fanboy in the comments. Just know that I played everything. I'm not choosing a side. I'm just stating what I see. But that's it. What's real out? Y'all take it easy.